קולי כי יקרה שמעתי האזינה אלי שמע קולי כי יקרה.
Hello everyone and welcome to our fourth lesson of Biblical Hebrew. Today I want to talk about consonants and vowels. Now the first three classes I sometimes said you don't have to really know this inside out in order to be able to study Biblical Hebrew. But this one is very vital, it's very important because consonants and vowels play a very important role in Hebrew. Good, let's go. Let's start. Let's start saying the obvious that I'm comparing it now first to the English alphabet because most of you will, probably everybody will know the English alphabet, that there are letters in the English alphabet just as there are letters in the Hebrew alphabet. And everybody, I think, will know these letters. Now the big question is, and this is very important, why do we call some letters consonants and why are others called vowels? What makes these vowel letters different from all other letters? What's so special? Why couldn't we call the M a vowel? I mean, is there a reason? Well, let me explain it the following way. I was thinking about it for a long time and I came up with the following explanation. A vowel is basically an uninterrupted airflow from the lungs through the throat, through the mouth, outwards, without obstacles. So let me go to the first vowel, and I will call it not A, but A. See, there is no obstruction. It goes from my lungs through my throat. If I change my mouth, it sounds different. It's another vowel, but it's the same interrupted flow. I only change my mouth. All vowels. All I'm changing is my mouth. I make it like a slot. No obstacles. Now, if I'm going to now add obstacles, if I'm going to interrupt the airflow, yeah, then you could see those are the consonants. Those are, I call it airflow interrupters. So let's use the first consonant in this alphabet. I'm going to start with A and interrupt it with B. Ba, 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 ba. So it interrupts the flow, but it's definitely not an airflow, it's an interruption. Sa, sa, da, da, da. Now, fe, fe, ge, ge, he, he, ke, le, me, o, po, ro, so, to. Sounds like a chant, like a mystical chant. No, it's just so every time I do la is an interruption, and these interruptions are consonants. Now, let me explain why the Y is sometimes a vowel, sometimes a consonant. So I could do young, young. Is a sound. So young, is the interrupter of the consonants. As the Y in young, right? But E in healthy, that's a vowel. So I can do E, ye, thi. The TH is also one sound. Thi. Here is a vowel. So I hope that's clear. Yeah. I can actually interrupt the E sound, the sound of E as in healthy with this consonant. So I can do E, ye. So This is the vowel E interrupted by the consonant. Oh, the vowel Y interrupted by the consonant Y. Isn't that interesting? Okay, let's continue. In Hebrew, all the letters are consonants. But before I'm going to explain and talk about that, I want to do another interrupter. I'm going to again interrupt it differently. That's also an interruption. And it's not a letter you can find anywhere in this alphabet. That interruption, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a very important one. I'm going to talk about it more in the next class. I'm going to give it to you. That interruption, U, is called in the science of linguistics in language, it's called a glottal stop. It's a stop. It's a stopper. It almost sounds like no sound, but it is an interrupter, and therefore it's a consonant. In Hebrew, it's recognized as a consonant. It appears in English too, but it's not recognized as a consonant. People even realize that they say it, if they say it. But that's not important. More about it next time. But this is the letter. We're going to talk about it next week. And that is the glottal stop. That is the that little interruption. Minimalistic consonant. All right. So all the Hebrew alphabets are consonants. And that means originally, okay, few things changed since then, but originally all were consonants. And so I already said in the first class that when we talk about Semitic languages, that for Semitic languages, the consonants are of vital importance. It was so important, so crucially important, so much determining the language that you could actually leave out the vowels. People didn't even think of the vowels as so important, because otherwise they would have designed a system to write it down with them. No, they only focused on the consonants. And you see how different that is with other languages such as English. If you would leave out the consonant, the vowels, this was what a sentence could look like. And it's really very hard to know. For instance, the second word, is that man or moon? Is this red or road or ride or... So if you add the vowels, you see the men ride on the red road. You could not understand, you could not read a book this way. It would not be possible, right? But in Hebrew, you can. So originally, Hebrew would look like this. Now, the top line here of the three, that's Old Hebrew letters. That is how people wrote before the Babylonian exile, let's say 400 years before the Common Era. Later we switched to the letters in the middle, and that's where you're going to learn. But those don't have any vowels. So if I would pronounce this without vowels, it would sound very funny. It would say it sounds so funny that I almost want to say it twice. But you see this apostrophe, that's the glottal stop. I did it. I said it twice, just for the fun of it. All right. But if it's nonsense and there have to be vowels, you cannot have a language with only consonants, and certainly not a language with only vowels, because there are vowels in Hebrew, just they don't have such a prominent meaning, and they don't play such a prominent role. So if a classical Hebrew person would hear me say it, they probably will figure out what I said. Very different from the English here, right? Very different. Now, two things happened that made it a bit easier for simpletons like us, like me. The first one is some letters, which are actually consonants, as you know, began to be used for long vowels. So these letters were added that weren't originally there. Notably, the letter, the Y, which is the letter Yud, and the W, which is the letter Wow. Now, most people now in modern Hebrew, that letter is pronounced as Vav. But everybody, the language scholars know it's very clear that the letter was originally pronounced as Wow, and there's still communities, huge communities that pronounce it that way. And it would be more correct also for many reasons, but it's not so important. It's all going to be discussed later. So the Wow was used and the Yud. What was it for? Look here. The the Yud, which is the Y basically, was both used for the long E and for the long A. Why? If you say healthy, the E is a vowel, right? Healthy. Okay, but if you have to, a vowel is an open flow of air. E, healthy. But if you're sloppy and you end the E, you say healthy. E, Y, Y, E. So the E often ends in the Y sound. That's probably also why the Y is used in English for both Y and E, because the sounds are so similar. Okay, so it's used for long E as in healthy and beauty, but also for in long A. Some people pronounce it as E in Hebrew, but convey at the end of the A, easily if you don't keep your windpipe open, it becomes A. Then you hear the Y at the end. Okay, so people heard that and thought, you know what, let's write that. It makes it easier. For instance, this middle letter here, see the middle letter, this here in the English letter, the second line, a B, a Y, and a T. So this is actually bet in Hebrew. But if, and you could, from the context, if there wasn't this Y, this vowel, the Y used as a vowel, you would probably know that it's Bet HaMelech, or Bet HaMelech, originally, the house of the king. That's what it means. It actually means the people or the men walked to the house, to the house of the great king. Or it could also be that the great house of the king, the big house of the king. Is from Hebrew, it could mean either or. In any case, but if you, but out of context, you don't know if it could be but, and but means daughter. So let's say I have a contract and I want to sell my house, and I don't have that middle letter yet to show that it's an A and a bet and not but. Then at the end, I find out I sold my daughter. So it's very important, these letters are. Then the W, if you think of super, oo, at the end of the oo, you can easily hear ooh, ooh, or woo. The oo and the woo are very similar. Do, we even spell a W here at the end, do, in English. And open, but if you close it, it becomes easily a W. So gallow, as in O. Yeah? We're getting there, dear people. Now, much later, something else happened. That was a lot later. That was in the, at least 500, 600, 700 years later, somewhere in the Middle Ages. There were signs added, first of all, below the consonants to signify long a short e, e, a, and so that was very convenient. Also above the letter, here this letter on top is an O. Sometimes above this W that was this wow, the letter wow that was added already. So then it might not have been, sometimes it wasn't added. Then you only have a dot, but sometimes it was already added, so they put the dot on top. And then here, sometimes inside the letters. Only in one case, if it's a long oo, they put it on top, inside. Sometimes these dots are inside letters for other reasons. For instance, that the consonant is doubled. We're going to talk about that later. And sometimes there's a plosive. That means it's a hard. We're going to talk about that. That is certain letters. There's 6 letters that can have 2 pronunciations. B can also be a V. A K can also be a ch. So and a and etc. etc. We'll continue. So to show that, so that's confusing. These dots and these letters have 3 different functions, but we're going to take our time to study it all. Finally, something else happened, but there's nothing to do with vowels anymore. Now, let me first, before I tell you about that, tell here. So these dots below are all vowels. These 2 dots on top are vowels. Those are the O sounds. And this one inside this letter is a vowel, but all the others are doubling of the letter. Once again, that's going to be discussed extensively. Now, these blue signs here, those are melody signs. If you read the Torah, of course, that's not going to be ever in a newspaper or in a children's book. That's if you read a text, the holy text in liturgy. In the Torah, these sounds sound differently, are sung differently than, for instance, in the prophets or in other texts. But these are ways to signify a melody. Now, that's for way, way later. This was the end of this class. Once again, dear people, I thank you for coming and for paying attention. Now, this is vital information. I hope you understand it, but if you're not 100% sure, I definitely recommend you listening to it again, and if necessary, again and again. And also, if there are things that are not clear, please send a comment. Underneath this video, there's a commentary box. You can leave a comment and with your question. So then in a future video, I can explain the question. And do not think, oh, I'm probably the only one who doesn't understand it. If you don't understand it, there are lots of people who also don't understand it, and they'll be so grateful for you to bring up that question. So please do so. I thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it. It's fun, and it's good. It's necessary to know all these things, and good luck with studying. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.